Forward TV. The world is thinking.
But the society is vastly more open than it was in the 80s, unimaginably so. People can basically come and go at will. People can live more or less where they want, do which jobs they choose, dress how they like. When I first went to Beijing in the mid-80s, adults weren't allowed to dance in public together. There was no neon lighting. There were no bars and clubs. Restaurants would close at 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night. It was a very, very different society. I think probably now the Chinese people are more exposed to foreigners and foreign ideas and foreign information than they have ever been in a couple of thousand years of history. One thing that strikes me as really remarkable, and I could never have believed it happening in the 80s and early 90s, was the way that Chinese and local Chinese and foreigners can mix and be with each other. The apartment blocks have apartments where foreigners and Chinese are co-tenants. Chinese go anywhere in the society where foreigners are, and really vice versa. There is no limits on relationships between Chinese and foreigners. This is unbelievably different to what it was, and how that transition was affected through the 90s itself, I think, is a very, very interesting story. The other thing that strikes me every day I'm in China is just how normal China's becoming, at least in the major cities. And by normal, I mean the emergence of an internationally aligned middle class, a middle class that shares values with middle class values all around the world, with middle class consumerism. This is a joke, but it captures a fair bit of what's happening there. The consumption of dogs is very high. Now, before you're shocked, I don't mean dogs as food, but as an economist, one talks about consuming services. The number of fluffy little dogs one sees around the streets in Beijing is extraordinary, and it reminds me very much of the years I used to live in central Paris, when you see people in the afternoons at 5 o'clock at night walking their dogs. One difference is, though, that in a very Chinese way, inside the third ring road, which basically marks out the higher income middle class suburbs of China, dogs have a height limit. So they can't be over 37 centimetres. So if you want a big dog, you have to, that's why there's all these little dogs around near the Australian Embassy, which still occupies relatively good quality property. And I wonder if the big dogs have their legs chopped off if they stray inside the third ring road. But it is this sort of normal society with people owning cars, going on driving holidays. I'm surprised with colleagues in the Foreign Ministry when Chinese New Year happens. Instead of the old days going down to Beijing railway station and queuing for hours to get on a train and go third class to see the family, the colleague and his wife, and often the wife's the colleague and the husband is the spouse, will hop in the car, spend a couple of days motoring along 6-lane highways, staying in hotels on the way before they get down to Anhui or Fujian or somewhere to see the family for the Chinese Spring Festival holidays. So it's in all of those ways, that people's daily lives and the detail of people's daily lives, that things have changed enormously.